Welcome to Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Leo Robinson, Michelle Walters, and Ollie Phipps. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to be talking about the legislation that's just been passed in California regarding AI and deep fakes. And, without talking about a specific candidate, we'll just say there was a video out there, gorgeously filmed video, but for some reason it got redone and the words got changed. I'm not so sure why, but the words got changed. And I guess some people were thinking, we've got to do something about this. But there's that First Amendment thing out there, isn't there? So what we've got to do is we've got to decide, do we need the government now to help us legislate such that the information that's being put out there can be used? I don't know what other way to say it. Ted, I'm going to go and start with you because you're out in California. What is this legislation all about? Please tell us.
Well, as a firm supporter of the First Amendment, people have the right to say things, whatever they want. They also have the right to be, as they say, held accountable. What makes this issue dicey these days is artificial intelligence is a completely different animal. This is not caricatures drawn in a cartoon in a newspaper. This is not Dana Carvey doing George H.W. Bush on Saturday Night Live, which you can tell automatically, oh, this is a caricature. Okay, well, this is satire. Right. Now you have the ability to reproduce clips or videos of the person who looks just like him, speaks just like him, has the same cadence, and they can put words in their mouths that make it very dangerous and very duplicitous as to what they mean and what's really the truth.
Gotcha. Well, Ted, that's great opening thoughts, because when I actually was talking to the panel about doing this topic and everybody started looking into it, they weren't kind of sure themselves, because let's face it, you could do one that's quite like tweaked only a little bit, couldn't you? I mean, as opposed to one that's a pure satire and parody. All right, Michelle, I know you've been reading up on it and you weren't sure where you stand on this. What's your opening thoughts?
Well, I thought the whole thing was extremely interesting, and I appreciate that the concern for the misinformation that can be perpetrated with these deep fakes and how people can interpret them as realistic and these are actual factual campaign ads that are being out there. I think that's really interesting is California proposing a couple of these bills, and I'm not 100% sure whether they've been passed or not, where the parameters are that these deep fakes cannot be distributed within the election period for these elected officials, whether it be presidential, state officials, local assemblymen for, I believe, 60 days before and to a certain duration afterwards, or there has to be some form of disclosure on there.
That's right, Michelle. You can't post whatever you want, but if it's a parody, you have to label it as a parody or as a satire. Yes.
Correct. Now, has that officially been passed, though, within California?
No, but it's up for discussion, and it's very lively. And the thing is that Musk just posted a video of a certain presidential candidate, we'll call a female, and it taken off YouTube, and it was listed as a parody on YouTube, but Musk put it on X and did not list it as a parody. I think that's a malicious intent.
Well, that is
all right. Hey, Leo, I know you've been studying up on this a little bit. What hits you with this thing?
I think digitally altering content is the wave of the future, and it's a way to get the political parties to maybe move the people that they're considering to vote for them. It's putting other parties in bad situations. So it has its pros and cons, whether or not you use AI to manipulate the party's visuals or whatnot. Looking at the aspect that if you hear a party say something that they shouldn't say and you believing that they said it, then it is going to cause problems in the future for the next party over. So the conversation is like digitally altering and deceptive. So you really got to put a stop on it, I think.
So you're saying something, you feel that something does have to be done, I take it, right?
I feel like something has to be done because you could lie on somebody, as I can say, and that they didn't really say that, and then the world's thinking that person is like that.
Gotcha. Ollie, you're our last defender of the First Amendment here. What do you got there?
Yes, I'll be the voice of reason in the wilderness. So Leo brings up a very good point. But the question becomes, should the government be responsible for this? It's bad enough with websites and social media where it's can be tend to be slanted as well, depending on what media you're listening to. And so to inject the government into that equation, I question whether that's like the right thing, because we've certainly seen government having their own slant as it is. So I definitely don't like the government venturing into censoring the output, because we've got the First Amendment for a reason.
All right, Ted, your response to that?
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, do you understand why people in the First Amendment, have concerns, but we've never been here before?
So I think what happens though is that these videos can be produced very quickly. They can be pinpointed to certain issues at certain times, which gives them great context. And so the recourse to all this is go to the courts, and you can cite libel or defamation. But how long does that take? That takes months, maybe years. So what do you say? You're right. Someone could post a complete fake video, looks just like me, posting that I am a X, and I would have to wait 2 or 3 years to get some recourse. How about fast defamation court? Something new, a government agency, Leo, that says basically we solve these things immediately within a week. How about that?
Yeah, Ted, I think we've got enough video on you now that we could pretty much get you doing anything.
Pretty much. That's why I'm living in
like rooting for the LA Rams or something like that. We could have you do something like that, or the Cowboys, right? Michelle,
don't say the Cowboys. Don't say.
Okay,
the Cowboys.
Michelle, on your reading, where did the First Amendment come into this whole thing, please?
I mean, where the First Amendment comes in is that people have the right to publish and release any material that they want to. I think the hard part comes in is when it's misleading, when it's done for the purpose to deceive, to defraud, and put somebody on a different path. And we can obviously see that with on the election, that this is a huge problem. I do think, though, that it is being addressed. There are several proposals, though, with the FCC on trying to narrow in the parameters of some of their campaign rules and regulations. And then also, too, though, I mean, we're already starting to see, I think 13 states, along with California, are enacting or at least proposing bills to address the same concern, to eliminate, have disclosure, some form or another, the same tad bits that are currently within the California bills. Even Florida has one itself that's up for proposal.
Right. Well, I mean, you could make an argument that any regular campaign ad is made to deceive, but that's, maybe an aside there.
They say a campaign was a campaign ad is illegal. What was it? A legal way to lie, or a legal definition to lie? I can't remember what the wording was on it.
Yeah, my name is this, and I made up this message, right?
Exactly. But a lot of these social platforms, though, have come out, though, and they've stated that they're going to make sure that on their particular platform, whether it's going to be for satire or if it's going to be a complete deep fake, that they're going to make some form of disclosure on there. So they are trying to do some self-policing without trying to have further regulations of the government.
Right. Leo, if they're going to put some kind of a message on there, is this something where at the very front, I know that's what Ted was saying earlier that this thing's talking about, right? At the very front of the ad, you're saying whether or not it's made up or not? That certainly would take away from the humor of the thing.
Well, and a lot of times though, it's not even humor. Sometimes it's just plain, misinformation. I know the particular ad that you were talking about, I was in stitches. I thought the whole damn thing was just freaking funny. You know what I mean? It was hysterical. But I can see, though, how other people might take that as fact. Because unfortunately, when you look at the population of the world, there's more stupid people than smart.
Okay.
Not in California.
Yeah. Ollie. Yeah, Leo, we kind of lost you there. That's okay. Ollie, we're gonna go to you. I mean, it seems like they've got a good point here. Where does it have to be done? I mean, do we have to do this? Is the First Amendment going to be starting to be challenged because of AI?
Well, in my opinion, the First Amendment is inviolate, and I do like. It's gratifying that there has been progress made with disclosures. And I think Ted spoke to it at first. And I hope this is not being recorded, because I'll say that I agree with Ted on that. But you've got these the movement now where you've got a place like Babylon Bee, for instance, which clearly represents itself as satire. Saturday Night Live clearly represents itself as satire. And if we can just keep it there and not necessarily get the government involved with some agency or such to maybe I shouldn't use the word censor or regulate, but I just really don't want them in the business of changing or squelching what somebody wants to say, no matter how outrageous.
All right. Well, we're going to take we've got to take
go
our
ahead.
first break right now,
Yeah.
and we'll be back in a moment. And of course, you want to make sure that you go on and like us and subscribe and all these other things. For those that are watching this after the fact, please, go on Facebook, go on, thirdsideconvo.com. So we'll be right back.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, we're back. I was listening to or reading about Matt Taibbi wrote a little bit on this, and he basically came up with one of his issues, and I think we ought to talk about this, is who's going to be doing this content moderation. And his claim was the dirty secret of content moderation, it's a tiny sliver of the educated rich correcting everybody else.
That's the truth. I believe that.
It's not. I know, Ted, you're throwing out that look, so I'm going to go on and go to you first. Do you not have a concern with the people that are going to be determining what needs to be moderated?
It all depends on what it has to be determined. Again, the First Amendment right gives you things free speech, but it also does not excuse you from accountability. So again, back to Ollie. The thing about AI is that the technical capabilities are able to create something that looks incredibly real, lifelike, like it happened today. Exact background, people, statements, sounds, everything. That's what makes it difficult to determine. So what is the recourse of action? This law in California states, if you label it, you can put it up whenever you want. If not, you have a 30-day lock or a 60-day lockout. That's all it takes. You can post it 61 days later, but just during a certain period to influence people on how they vote or how they view people in key situations at key times in our democracy, it says no way, you can't do it. And I agree with that.
So any slippery slope here concerns?
Yeah,
My concern is, where does this go from here? My concern is the next, round of elections. Does this become more restrictive? Does this become, whoever happens to be in power at that particular time, starting to sit there and enact laws stating, okay, well, now you can't do these particular commercials, 90 days, 120 days in advance, or you can't do this. I mean, I'm just trying to really decipher on where is the line here? Where is it drawn?
You have TikTok and all the other platforms that allow you to just put any disinformation up, and they can throw an AI generated information about the president up instantly, and then you're going to believe that he said that, or he just dodged his bullets with his ear. Anything could happen, and then you'll hear something. You could say actually that he's a Cowboys fan when you got a San Francisco fan on here talking about something, and he feels that the disinformation changed his life completely because now all his friends are after him. So AI is taking over, and we have a Cowboy fan on here. Look at the third side today. But what if they disinformation you? Is the government has too much power, the internet has too much power, and it changes people's mindsets towards who they should vote for.
Cowboys fan.
You can take therapy for that. You can take therapy for that now, Ollie. They told me that.
Therapists for your Cowboys hat. I mean, I'm a saint, but no words to that.
No, like I said, I mean, with me, I'm just trying to wonder though. I understand that it is changing people's lives, and I understand that you can't computer generate anything with anybody doing anything. I'm just wondering at what point, with government interaction, with government interference on these laws that are being enacted, these laws that are being proposed prior to elections,
until they can have
this is a slippery slope where it could continue on.
Until they can have someone come in and actually come to your house and knock on the door and say, you got to stop disinformation. You know, someone's going to have to come and take your dog and say, hey, if you don't stop doing this to this candidate, you're going to lose your animal. Something's got to happen.
Yeah, recourse. It's called recourse.
Well, but who had recourse? I mean, back during COVID, as you know, there was a lot of disinformation thrown out there, and a lot of it was being shut down by the tech companies, not the government, even though, from what I understand, the government was in, discussions with the tech companies, right? There was a lot that happened during there.
But it was due to public health. You know, the government was telling companies, don't put this stuff up about vaxes are bad or,
Right.
Don't wear, it's okay to stand in a crowded room or an elevator without a mask on. I mean, at the time when nobody knew what was going on, that was a public health issue.
They meant well.
As opposed to a personal attack on a certain candidate at a certain time. That's what makes it a little bit different. But back to the tech companies, they battle this all the time. It's worse in India. It's worse all over the world. Indonesia. Mm-hmm. This is everyday life. In America, we try to have a little more clarification about what actually is true and what is parody. There's no one say you can't do it. Just make sure it's clear it's parody. Again, AI is not Dana Carvey pretending to be George H.W. Bush going, you're not going to do it, not going to do it. No, this is stuff that looks just like a real candidate in real time saying things that are not real.
Basically, what you're saying is that it doesn't matter if it's true or not. They just got to acknowledge what they believe is true over what they know is not.
No, AI makes it different. When you see Dana Carvey trying to George H.W. Bush, you know it's a parody. You can't tell that with these videos on presidential candidates today. You can't tell that. That's why it has to be listed.
Well, and a lot of times, so now, I mean, I think Google even came out and said that they would, anything that's going to go on their platform that's going to be a deep fake or obviously of malicious intent, that has to be disclosed, whether it's going to be satire or, or not. But it's my understanding with Google, though, that they are trying to address this issue.
Yeah, and that's why Elon Musk bought X, is because he didn't want people telling him, or what tech company telling him what he couldn't post, because he was posting a lot of bad stuff during the pandemic.
It can actually keep voters from voting too. If the AI generated content is very good, it'll keep voters from voting for that person, and then you won't even know what's really going on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's dangerous. I mean, this misinformation that's being spread, nobody's trying to dismiss the fact that it's, it's manipulative in nature, and, it's coercing people into a mindset to where it shouldn't be. I mean, I'm 100% in agreement with that. I do. I believe that our companies and our social media platforms are making an effort to, in essence, police themselves. And they do understand that this is a problem. They are trying not to create and disseminate disinformation. And they have come publicly, a lot of them, Meta and Google, and trying to state that we are addressing this. We are trying to make people place labels on them. But it's not coming from it's coming from their own personal well-beings.
Right. I can agree. I believe it's going to get a lot worse. It's a lot of power in one person's hand with the keystroke. So you can actually make a video tomorrow and says, hey, I seen Michelle on Third Side and she was so liberal, I didn't know what to do with her. You understand me? So you got to really stand up and say, hey, how do I fight this power of somebody having all this power with the video? They can put anything.
Yeah, but this is the government now doing this, right? I mean, before with the tech companies, obviously, with a lot of the banning that they did, a while ago, let's say. But this is a bigger step when the government's going to come in and do this. Ollie, I guess we needed to have some, major First Amendment person helping you out there. Because everybody, like I said, it makes sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it make sense?
Yeah, I liked Taibbi's comment about the so-called educated rich. I just don't know. It is scary. This is of all the third sides that I've either watched or participated in, this is probably the one that is the closest one where if I could make up my mind which side I'm on, it's really difficult. As Leo said, and I'm not sure what kind of saint he is. I didn't hear his name called out on Sunday when I went to church, but is he asking for the disclosure police or the content police or something when he comes? You're not going to take my rescue dog, by the way.
What's
There's
funny?
no question. Leo's correct that content is good. Content is so good that who can even tell whether it's real or not. Maybe it's naive of me to say we got to rely on the free market to come out with rebuttals, or even the disclosure maybe has to come from the person who is the victim of a deep fake.
I think candidates
don't know.
I think candidates may have to do their own rebuttals to the deep fake, because they are the main ones that are having the problem right now, looking for voters, looking for rights. So at the same time, being a saint and all, I try to live for what's right, not a cowboy that thinks he can shoot and leave at the times when he comes around. So I really want to see it as an aspect where I'm winning the argument and not just throwing the football and losing at the time. But I want to say that we have to have some kind of debate with the factor that if you see someone using AI and dismantling someone else's mindset towards a candidate, which is directing the votes in another direction, that we need to have some kind of law or discipline about it. And like Ted said, accountability to the people that are wanting the votes and wanting the activity.
All right, well, excellent. Well, we've got to take our next break, and then we're going to come back and try to figure out where this can go next. I don't know, but we'll try to figure it out. But we're not, I guess, in that much disagreement here. Something needs to be done. We'll see what's next. We'll be right back.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now to get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, we're going to go a little bit on the clock here, the hourglass, our 30-second clock. But first thing I want to figure out is what is it going to look like in the future? What is the government going to be able to do? What power does the government really have? Does the government have that much power to be able to affect our discourse on a daily basis? I'm not sure it does, but maybe it does. We've got somebody going a little nuts here with our stuff. So where does this go? We've got the government finally in, possibly, making us, put together something that's obviously satire, and now they got to disclose it ahead. At what level? As Ted, you said this. You said that George Bush being, doesn't need to put on that satire. So there's still some gray area here, isn't there, Ted?
Absolutely. The thing you got to remember is that certain things do work. A certain ex-president was sued for defamation, and he got hammered on it, got hammered again on it. So it does work, except that It took 3.5 years, and millions of dollars had to be spent on both sides for legal fees. And, so it becomes that kind of issue, that kind of recourse becomes a have and have not. If you're going to go after Elon Musk in a defamation case, do you think his lawyers are going to outspend you? Probably. And therefore.
All right, well, that's your 30 seconds. And don't mention Andrew Johnson again, please. Okay. All right. Ollie, what do you see next problem here?
Once again, hate to say it, but Ted's got a point. So it does take too long in the courts. And I'll say Leo's got a point. It's likely that it's got to be the other candidate to come out and rebut something that is a misstatement of fact and against that particular candidate. But I'm more on the side of saying do nothing about it. No government regulation on this.
Wow, that could be possible. Michelle, do you see how that could be possible? And let the free market or the campaigns handle this. Actually, it would maybe mean we'd actually learn something, wouldn't we? Go.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I do think that we do have a free market, and it is a certain, aspect of it that is being regulated. And I absolutely agree with everybody else on wanting to have some form of disclosure on misinformation or, or manipulation of material. My personal 2 cents on it is I would like to see like the FCC basically taking a federal broad stance instead of having all of these various different states enact their own bill. Narrowing
okay,
on their-
that's your 30 seconds. Leo, we'll get back to you.
Hey, I think Michelle has a point having the FCC take a stand on it. I throw a flag on the play because I think that sometimes they need to have some kind of censorship, but at the same time, we're talking about the future here. AI is taking over. The government's taking over. They want you to get their point across before you can have your point across. So it's just like on calling the play. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. I say we need to censor it, though.
Got it. All right. Hey, Ted, do you think we'd have a new occupation now called fact checkers or something like that? Content moderation would be a PhD these days?
How about at a certain time, places of public discourse today, which is all electronic, social media, YouTube.
Yeah.
If you post something of a political slant, even a personal political slant, you have to pay for it. You have to pay to get it up and get it seen. And on top of which, you agree that it had to be subject to some type of fact check. In fact, many times I wish I applied to be a fact checker for YouTube because of all the stuff that's gone on in the last 3 years. I would love to do that. But I think something like that where just because you believe it doesn't mean you get to post something political or social for free. Your kids' photos, yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, you got to spend money. So these people putting up these fake ads, but then you've got something called the Streisand effect that's out there. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. It was when she made a big deal about the erosion and her beachfront, gorgeous mansion. It all of a sudden brought all this attention to it. So the question is, would a deep fake possibly actually open up the discourse in this country a little bit so we could start talking about the issues? Ollie, I mean, do you get a lot out? Do you get anything out of a political ad now?
No, yeah, I can't say so. Like you said, if it spurs the discussion, so you've got like the two sides to it. You've got the intentional slant, and then you've got the person coming back and leveling the playing field. I think that's the way it's just got to be. It's scary as hell. I understand it. I don't like it, but it's here. So now we got to deal with it. And in my opinion, that's the only way to do so.
I like a governmental fact check. I like what Ted said on that. If it raises concerns and it may put someone in jail or cause them to have not an opportunity to have a good light in the eyes of others around the country, I think you need to have a fact checker that's certified from the government to fact check every point that's made, especially in AI or disinformation in the candidates.
Well, you're not taking my dog, but you can have one of my kids.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you for the show today. Often when we get on these shows, we're picking topics. We want to talk about something. We know in a half hour we're not going to deal, we're not going to solve anything. But what's interesting is we can talk. We're starting to become friends. I mean, who can dislike Ted? I will tell you early on, there were some concerns about that. And I must admit, even my producer has now said that Ted is like one of the strongest people out there. In fact, was promoting you for another special show we want to do. He's like, we got to get Ted on there just because. Leo, great to see you. Michelle, as always. And Ollie, I hear you're on assignment, so you better get back to work. And please make sure to subscribe and like and go on Facebook and Third Side Convo. We've got new shorts on there. We would love to see you, and we'll see you next week on the Third Side Convo. Thank you.